So looking at the weekend here, we see on Saturday and Sunday we're going to have that high plane threat. And we do see here on Saturday, we see this kind of hook shape. So this is indicative of a few things. One, we're going to see some potential linear fashion start to form. So we could see like a few cells in the middle that'll kind of group together. But what we see in this hook down here is potential storms form in the middle of Oklahoma and then travel further to the east. But then we see this kind of peak up here of the top of the hook, you could say. And that's showing us that we're going to see pop up potential supercells. We also see that same exact thing down in Louisiana. And looking back across the rest of the country, we see these individual pockets, and individual cells will form throughout the day with these. And that's all going to be because of that daytime heating and the fact that it is summer. We're getting more thunderstorms, especially in the northern half of the country. And looking at Sunday, we're going to see very similar looking thunderstorm outlooks. We see that there is one or two pockets of them, and then we see that there's that high plains threat. This time there's going to be two. So whenever you see two separated like this, as of right now, they are definitely expecting some supercells to form, because you only ever see these individual pockets that are small like this if it's going to be a supercellular form, because if you would see a linear, you would see a path of that slight threat rather than two different pockets. So let's go ahead and take you to your temperatures and seeing what it's going to be like at, the middle of the afternoon when it's the hottest out there. So individual little pockets will be cooler with some rain, as you can see up through here, but across the entire nation, warm temperatures except for a few spots in the northwest. We do see temperatures drop into the 50s. Now that could be with altitude, but we have seen cooler temperatures. So we would not leave that out of the picture of potentially having cooler temperatures up here. But across the rest of the country, we could see almost 100 degrees in the Dakotas, which is definitely going to be fueling those storms on Saturday, which are going to form right in South Dakota and down through parts of the Central Plains. And then we do see a lot of those hundreds numbers, 104. We even see 107 across Texas and places in the South. So definitely going to be a hot weekend. So skipping ahead to Sunday, we're going to see kind of a cool down occur across portions of the north and northwest. The rest of the country is staying about the same at roughly 100 degrees in a lot of places in South Dakota. Then looking back across here in a few rain-fueled pockets, we are going to see these extremely hot temperatures. So across pretty much the rest of the nation, we're seeing temperatures at about roughly 90 every single day over the next week or two. If you were to split this part out of the country, everything east of kind of this line here is going to be roughly 85 or higher, except for Maine. We're going to see some 50s up in there, so potentially a little bit cooler for you. So going to our reflectivity, and this is going to show us what the weather is going to be like at certain times. If we look to the morning hours here on Saturday, you can see some individual pockets forming, but nothing too crazy building yet. Then as we get into the afternoon hours is where we get to see some isolated supercells forming, and that's why we see that hook shape into here. It's because we see some supercells forming. Then back up into the Dakotas, we're seeing some lines form, but of potential supercells. It's really once you get into nighttime hours, you see what is formed from the afternoon through dinner time, and that's why we're saying the biggest threat is up in the high plains, because we're getting these massive fueled storms that are going to be supercellular. It could be multiple cells here. It could just be one that ends up elongating or traveling along that path, but definitely hitting a lot of these portions of the Dakotas over and over again this weekend. We're going to see multiple cells working their way through. So going to Sunday morning to show you what the weather could be like then, we start out with a whole bunch of rain down in the south, and then we do start out with some higher energy systems up in the Dakotas, which will allow the Dakotas to really start getting active as some individual cells will pop up in the early afternoon hours. But the south is really going to be seeing some of that tropical moisture allowing for more rainfall. And then finally, looking at the nighttime hours on Saturday, we've seen that some cells have formed down in the south, some maybe heavier rain, maybe some more severe ones, but most likely we're going to see a linear fashion at the end of the night on Sunday, so into Monday morning. So we did start out with these 2 pockets, so most likely supercells will form somewhere in Montana, North Dakota, and South Dakota, to North Dakota and South Dakota on the Minnesota side. Then we'll see those travel overnight, and in the overnight hours is when they'll kind of collect into more of a linear fashion. But looking over all this, since it's just the NAM, we don't have the exact triple kilometer CONUS yet. This is most likely going to be a group of supercells, more supercells down here. But focusing on the whole weekend, you can expect the most severe threat is going to be some supercells. So what comes with that is most likely hail, damaging winds is the second biggest threat. And then since supercells are rotating, we do have that tornado threat that is potentially going to happen. Now, if you've seen any of the videos over the last week or so, there have been tornadoes on days where there's a marginal threat, like the one in Nebraska. We've seen ones near Sand Hill, and then we saw some other ones forming in different parts of Nebraska where it was in a marginal threat. So considering we have a slight threat, that is by all means allowing for tornadoes to form. We even have seen tornadoes multiple times this year. A great example down in Florida, up in Oregon, where there hasn't been anything, not even thunderstorms listed for that, where some pop-ups occurred and 1 or 2 spun. So if you see thunderstorms in the forecast and you look and see if it's a marginal threat or higher, I'd say be preparing for potential threats, as in damaging winds and stuff, because it could be dangerous at some point. But, it's just better to be safe than sorry whenever your lawn furniture gets thrown through your community. So that does it for your weekend forecast. We hope you all have a great 4th of July weekend. And know the fireworks are going to be a little bit different this year, since a lot of places are not going to have them, but other places are allowing online ones. So if you can, get outside and enjoy some if your communities are setting them off. Or if you just have to watch online, you could watch some archived ones or some other stuff if you're doing some fun family activities. But happy 4th of July, and we hope to see you back on Monday for Monday's forecast.